Today I'm going to be walking you through A to Z exactly what I would do if I was starting my AI voice agency completely from scratch. I'm going to take you from someone who's never touched an AI voice agent system before, all the way to how to actually deliver and scale your builds to companies and scaling your agency as well. So you can see I've got this nice little roadmap here, and we'll be breaking down exactly each step and in what order to take in order to go from a beginner to someone who's actually got a few clients selling AI voice agents. So let's just dive right in. So the first phase is obviously to learn the skills, learn the stack, okay? So the first things first, you need to pick an orchestration layer or a voice platform. So this is the layer that's going to actually handle all of the calls. It's where you have the prompt for your agent. So these are things like Vapi, Retell, or Bland. Don't try and learn all of these, just pick one and stick to it and get really good at it. You want to learn the ins and outs of the software, how to use it, how to prompt correctly, but also how to use tools and how to integrate them with your flows. So don't try and learn everything, pick one and get really, really good at it. You then need to pick your backend tool, because ultimately all AI voice agents are basically consisting of two main parts. That's the orchestration layer, the front end, and then you can think of the back end as kind of the tool execution layer. So these are going to be your tools like Na10, Make.com, maybe even Claude Code if that's the route you want to go down. But again, don't make the mistake of trying to learn everything. Just pick one, stick to it, and learn it like the back of your hand. So this is going to be able to update your CRMs, it's going to create bookings. So all of those things that are like actual work, that's what the backend is going to do. So there are a few key skills that kind of fall within learning the front end, but also the back end. That are really, really important, but they're kind of skills in themselves you need to learn. So the first one is prompting, okay? So a lot of people really underestimate how important the prompt is for an AI voice agent. This is absolutely a skill in itself. This is not something you're going to become a master at overnight. This is something you're going to need to test and iterate with, but prompting your agents is absolutely crucial. You also need to learn the basics of tool calling. So when you're setting up your orchestration layer to link up with the backend, like Na10, you need to learn how to use the tool so that the front end and the back end can basically like talk to each other. You also need to learn the fundamentals of webhooks and APIs and how they actually work and how they can integrate into your system. But also things like data storage if you're going to use like custom knowledge bases, and then also just your basic kind of calendar or CRM integrations. Now, obviously, if you're going to be selling AI voice agents to companies, the CRM they're going to use is going to vary massively. I'm not saying you need to go ahead and learn every single CRM out there, but just learn the basics, learn how they work, what they're used for, and how they can integrate with your system. So again, in terms of overarching mindset points here, don't try and learn every tool. Pick one orchestration layer, pick one backend tool, and just stick to them and learn them. The goal here is just to become capable enough so that you can actually build these systems well enough so that people will be willing to pay money for it. The key mistakes to avoid here are trying to learn too many tools, like I've said before, but also not going deep enough. So I'm not saying you need to spend months and months learning these tools and learning these skills, but certainly don't just grab a template from YouTube and copy and paste it and try and sell it. It's not going to work. You really need to know the ins and outs of the software that you're going to use and know how to problem solve, because that's going to be extremely valuable and important later. So now you've learned the basics of an orchestration layer and a backend tool, and so you're actually able to build one of these systems. The next important step that a lot of people skip is to actually build and test something. So you don't want to just learn the basics and think, yep, that's good to go, I will go and try and sell this thing. It's going to be messy. What you want to do is create a little practice project first, just so you actually have an idea of what a project might look like from start to finish. So what I would recommend doing is picking an example use case. For example, I want to create an AI voice agent for a roofing company, and then actually sit down and spend the time to draw out exactly what this agent would need to have in terms of its function, and then start to build it from scratch from the beginning, including the entire workflow. So you want to incorporate real components like a qualification workflow, a workflow that's going to be able to book new people in. but also the basics like FAQ handling and then updating CRMs. But also things like call summaries and transcripts and figuring out ways to store them so that you can actually use the data to improve your systems over time. You then want to test your system. Don't call it once, think it sounds good and call it a day. When I was building my first test project, I probably called that thing, hundreds of times, and every single time I called, there was a little small thing that I didn't like, and I would tweak it and adjust it. And if you do that enough times, you're going to end up with a product that is really, really good. You want to make sure it's not just handling the basics like booking people in, but also able to handle certain edge case scenarios that you can think of, like angry customers or confused people over the call, incomplete information, and just those little itty bitty edge cases that might kind of come back to bite you later if you don't figure out how to deal with them now. Once you've tested and iterated, the key skill here is debugging, and I cannot express how important this skill is when building AI voice agents. Debugging is like the skill to learn. You're going to learn how to test and fix your prompts. You're going to learn how to debug in the backend. You're going to learn how to refine the call flow. When I was building my first test project, I went through every different possible combination of workflows that you could possibly imagine before I found something that actually worked reliably. And then you want to just repeat it and repeat it and repeat it until you have a system that sounds smooth, is easy to talk to, everything functions well in the back end. And once you get to that point, then you can get the confidence to know, okay, I actually know how to build these systems. Again, the key here is a proof of concept. You're proving to yourself that you actually know how to build these systems, because you're going to take that confidence, and that's going to be extremely important when you're actually trying to sell these things. So you're going to figure out a lot of things that you didn't think were going to be a problem, and in the process of testing and iterating, those are going to come to the surface, and you're going to be able to nip them in the bud now during a test project, as opposed to with a real client later where it's all falling apart. This also gives you an opportunity to create a video demo of your product. So once you have something that's working really nicely, you can record yourself speaking to it to show other people, look, I built this system from scratch for this particular use case. Kind of a bit of a proof of concept that you actually know what you're doing when you're building these systems. So what we're really learning here, just to recap, is problem solving, debugging, how to think about the system as a whole, but also how real users are actually going to behave when you're talking to them. The goal here is not perfection. The goal is reps, learning, and getting a working proof of concept. So now that you've learned the tools and you've actually built out the test project and you have the confidence that you know you can build these systems, then the next phase is to actually pick a niche and create your offer. So there are loads of different niches you could get into. You could start more general, but honestly, I would recommend niching down. It makes the whole process so much easier. So the first stage is really picking a niche. Now, fundamentally for AI voice agents, what makes a good niche is they're getting inbound calls. The calls have a buying intent. Industries where speed to lead might matter, like for sales, for example, where booking can turn into real revenue, and where the owner is busy and misses calls. You don't want to target an industry where the phone never rings, or if the phone is ringing, it's customer service. Of course, there are use cases there, but really the closer you can get to revenue, the more money you're going to be able to make, and the clearer the offer is. So some good early niches are, honestly, anything in the home services industry is great, like roofers, plumbers, HVAC, remodeling businesses, pest control, med spas, real estate. The list goes on, but stick to those kind of core principles I mentioned at the start. And really look into your niche first and understand, is this actually really going to solve a problem if I implemented an AI voice agent into their business? Some things I would avoid early on. Anything with HIPAA compliance is going to be an absolute pain. So for those of you who don't know what that is, that's anything in the US that's related to like patient data, confidential data such as medical information. It's a complete nightmare. So stay away from the medical niches where you're going to be storing confidential medical patient data. You want to avoid anything with heavy compliance, anything with high legal risk, and anything that's too complex for a first offer. So we don't want to dive headfirst into an industry where creating voice agents is going to be this complete mammoth of a task. It's going to be a complete headache. It's going to be too much to handle. You want to pick something that is simple, where the use case is super clear, the offer makes sense, and that's honestly the best place to start. Then in terms of building your offer, I'm not going to walk you through exactly how to do this, but some key principles here. Sell the outcome, not the features. So when you build your first test project, you're going to want to tell everyone how good it is and how it does this and that, and it's got this feature and it can do this. But business owners don't care about features, they care about the outcomes. Focus on things like we help business owners answer more calls. We can help you qualify your leads and book more appointments and make you more money. That is the outcome. They don't care about the features. So again, there just to underline, do not sell the tech, sell the outcome. The closer you are to the revenue, the easier it's going to be to charge money for it. So you've learned the system, you've built a project so you have the confidence that you know how to build these systems. You've then gone ahead and picked a niche and crafted your offer. The next step is to actually start doing the outreach. Now, this is a huge topic within itself, and people pay lots of monies to learn how to do outreach correctly. But essentially, I'm going to give you the basics here, and then you can go off and figure out what you want to do in your own way. So there are a few key outreach kind of avenues that you can go down. Cold email. A lot of people say cold email doesn't work. That's a lie. You just need to know how to do it correctly. I would say one caveat with cold email is you really need to know how to actually build the systems in a way that's going to work at scale. Cold calling is great for beginners. It's daunting, it sucks, but it's going to teach you how to sell. You're going to be able to actually talk to your customer that you're trying to sell to in real time and get that feedback. Cold calling is a great way to start. Cold SMS. I see a lot of people trying to teach cold SMS. It can work, but you just be careful with cold SMS. There are some legal kind of gray areas, especially in the US. So just if you're going to go down the cold SMS, just really make sure you know what you're doing. Warm outreach is great to start. So if you have contacts or you know people who work at businesses that might benefit from your systems that you're going to sell, then reach out to people you know, because you're leveraging their trust and it's going to be a lot easier to get those first clients. And then obviously later down the line, referrals are going to be fantastic to kind of build that momentum, but that's kind of once you already have a few clients up and going. In the beginning, you also want to use your outreach as almost market research. So take the feedback that you're getting when you're doing those first few bits of outreach, because that's going to tell you lots and lots of valuable information. So you want to find the pain points, hear the objections that the people have to your offer, learn their kind of language. So every industry, people are going to talk in slightly different ways. You want to learn that language so that you sound like one of them. And you want to also just see what actually resonates with them. So you might find that a certain angle no one really responds to, no one cares about. But if you can take a slightly different angle based on that feedback, then that's something that they really resonate with, and that's something you can go forwards with when you're doing your outreach. Demos work great for the type of product that an AI voice agent is. So you can send a Loom, for example, in your cold emails. You can set up a system where everyone gets a customized Loom video explaining what the offer does and how it works. You can show proof of concept, so you can, a video, like a demo call of you calling an agent is fantastic proof of concept. But again, here to underline what we talked about previously, sell the outcome, not the tech. No one cares about the tech and the features. Business owners only care about the outcome. Now, in terms of actually realistically landing your first client, I would honestly recommend offering your services for free to start with, at least for your first client, if not your first few clients. Now, there's a few reasons for this. The first reason being that it kind of takes the pressure off you a little bit. If you're having someone paying you money for a service that you haven't really tested in an actual business environment, that can be stressful. Things will probably go wrong the first time, and offering it for free takes that kind of pressure away, makes it a bit more manageable, but ultimately it gives you the experience to actually know how to build these things within an actual business. And also you can just ask for a testimonial. So even if they're not paying you actual money, ask for the testimonial, and it will help get actual paying clients faster later down the line. Keep the scope limited to begin with. Don't try and take on this mammoth task. Don't overpromise. Keep it small and simple. To begin with, at least until you get your first few clients and you've proved that your system actually works. And then I've kind of already said this, but asking for a testimonial or a case study every single time, the more you can get, the more momentum you can build, the easier it gets to sell. So these are really important to get early on. So the goal here for the first client is for proof, it's for feedback, it's for your confidence, it's for data, and it's for a case study. We don't really care about the money at this stage. We just want to get that feedback loop, get the confidence, get the momentum so that we can actually get paying clients later down the line. Don't focus on trying to grab people's money straight off the bat. Just ease into it, get the experience, and then it will make your life so much easier going forwards. So in terms of mindset, we're not chasing perfection, we're just getting experience. We're just looking to start conversations, just get yourself out there, talk to the customers, don't be shy, that's all valuable feedback. And ultimately, proof beats explanation. So the faster you can get someone and build an actual system for you and get a testimonial, that proof is going to be so much more powerful than you trying to explain why it is that you can build these systems, if that makes sense. Now, the last step, if you've actually managed to get this far and you've got your first few clients, the last step is to deliver, but also to scale your agency. So let's talk about service delivery first. So the first few clients you'll get, even if they're not paying you, you need to do your best to absolutely smash it out of the park for your first clients, okay? I want you to be monitoring all the calls every single day. You need to be super responsive if they have messages. You need to be monitoring everything super closely and be really quick to fix anything that goes wrong. You want to make the experience for them as good as you possibly can. You're going to be adjusting the prompts, reviewing the edge cases and trying to fix them, and just staying really hands-on in the early stages. Once you get that feedback from service delivery in terms of things that are working, things that aren't working, then you can start to refine the workflow, improve things like qualification flows, improve the booking systems, tighten up the summaries. You can start to iterate and improve your system. At that point, you can also start to templatize and create SOPs. So we're kind of laying down the foundations here for scale. So to begin with, we're not really thinking about scale. We're just thinking about giving the customer the best experience possible and getting the feedback in terms of delivering the service. Once we know the ins and outs of how to actually deliver the service, that is when we can start to templatize and create SOPs where we're laying down the foundations for scaling later on. So for example, with your workflows, if you know you have a base template that works really well that you can plug into another business and just tweak a few things here and there and have it working really well, that's obviously going to save you a lot of time and allow you to scale later on down the line. Build things like onboarding checklists. So if you're like sending them a questionnaire of information you need, again, in the early stages, you're going to be testing these and iterating on them. So that is the A to Z roadmap of starting an AI voice agency as a complete beginner. Again, this is a high-level overview. I mean, each of these topics you could spend hours talking about, but I hope this gives you a clearer picture, kind of how you would approach this if you're a beginner from the start, in terms of what you need to do, the skills you need to learn, and in what order to do them. If you found that valuable, you found that useful, hit the subscribe button. Otherwise, I will see you in the next one.